Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Tyler with Weights and Redemption, bringing you another vlog. This vlog is about becoming addicted to people. And, just like becoming addicted to a drug, you can become addicted to a person, whether it's due to sex or just the way that they make you feel. In time, we begin to feel comfort in those feelings. Those feelings begin to start feeling like home to us. And that's not always a good thing. You know, love that stands the test of time, that's a wonderful thing. That's a beautiful thing. When it unites two souls to form an everlasting partnership, that's what a true love story is all about. You know, unfortunately, sometimes we find out that that's not always the story. No matter if it's a relationship that has long since gone south, or hell, even if it's a relationship of convenience where someone is simply being used and they're aware that they're being used. Sometimes, for whatever the reason, you just can't let go. You know, and if it's not working out, you just cut your ties and go, right? You just chalk it up to a loss and split. That sounds good in theory, and even if that is the thing that you should do, sometimes that's just easier said than done. And of course, to the outsider, it's going to be cut and dry. It's going to be black and white. They're going to be like, well, why don't you just end it and be done with it? But to the people that are involved, it is a gray area. You know, it's complicated. You know, and I say that jokingly, but you hear it all the time. But it's because it can be. It can be very complicated. You know, and it can be a complicated thing because love is a very powerful thing, and so is infatuation. And those two aren't the same thing, but they kind of run side by side with each other at times. And unfortunately, they don't always have a positive manifestation. They can cloud your judgment and make it to where you don't always make the right decision. You know, and in time, as it continues to progress, you can become addicted to a person, even when that person is no longer good for you. And they can become addicted to you even when you're no longer good for them. They might not be the bad guy. They might not be the one at fault. It might be you. Or neither one of you are bad. It just hasn't been clicking for a long time, and you don't see it changing. You know, there doesn't necessarily have to be toxicity in the relationship. The dynamics can simply just stop working. However, if you continue to subject yourself to a relationship that is going on a downward spiral, then it can, in fact, turn toxic over time. So you want to be careful about that. You know, it's crazy, man. Sometimes the harder you hold on to something, the more it slips through your fingers, and then can even turn into something that it shouldn't turn into. You know, and I want to make it very clear that I am not telling anybody to do one thing or the other. But if you have found yourself in a partnership where it just isn't working anymore, and it hasn't for a long time, and you don't see it working in the future, if you are starting to feel more animosity than joy, then maybe you really need to stop and dive into the reasons on why it is exactly that you are still in said relationship. Is it just because of the sex? Because, let's be honest, we're all adults. Sex is great, but is that really going to be a binding force just to keep a deteriorating relationship together? Or is it something deeper, like maybe you don't think you can move on, or you don't think that you're good enough to find somebody else? And if that's the case, man, you really need to take a look at yourself and just kind of see why you've got those self-demeaning feelings and take some actions to try and correct that, because that's not a good way to be either. You know, and I don't care what any of the movies say. You know, I know good and well that no relationship is perfect. They take work. And that's just plain and simple. You know, they do take effort. And you're going to have your riffs every now and again. It's all part of it. It goes without saying. But, man, if you have a rift every week or every day, you know, and you just find yourself being drained mentally and emotionally, then, you know, maybe it is better just to cut your losses. I know that ending a relationship is hard. It's heartbreaking, and I'll be honest, man, it can even be a little scary. But man, if it's for your overall well being, and not just you, but your partners as well, then, to both of you, men and women alike, you should sack up and just break the chains. I know that chains are very hard to break, but sometimes you simply have to, no matter how difficult it seems, and no matter how impossible it seems. And if you have found yourself in this make-up breakup cycle, sex very well may be the culprit that keeps dragging you back in, but after you have your moment of lust, then that lack of connection returns, and you're back in that boat of second guessing and longing, and I mean, you're right back to where you started, and it really is a cycle. And that's where it is a lot like drug and alcohol addiction, man. It's insanity, and insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. And another thing that I want to make clear, I am not telling anybody to break up and then go catting around. That is not what I'm advocating. I mean, and I know you're all adults, you're going to do whatever the fuck you want to do, and that's fine. But that's not what I'm pushing for. I am talking about breaking those chains and then getting reacquainted with who you are again. All your strengths and all your weaknesses. Because sometimes, man, in the hustle bustle of life, and then even when you're under stress of a relationship that is just not good for you and that has been falling apart, man, you kind of lose sight of where you stand. You kind of lose sight of what you initially want out of a relationship and what you believe in and what your values are. I mean, we can just kind of lose ourselves in the storm of life. So it's a good thing, to break those chains and not try to jump into somebody else, but just to try and get familiar with who you are again on the inside, what you stand for, what you believe in, what you want. Because I personally feel when you go out and just start hooking up with people, man, you could end up being bound by sex to somebody who is way worse for you than who you were with. And then you're no better off. You're actually worse off. Focus on healing yourself to become the best version of yourself. And then as time has progressed and you have achieved that, well then, yeah, go out and look for another partner that has more of the same values that you have. Just be sure to take your time with it. And like I said, take this vlog with a grain of salt. It's just kind of like an open topic. Just want to make it very clear that, addiction has many faces, and sometimes it literally has a face. So good luck and take care.